mindset and values around abundance and collaboration and generosity. So it's give first, support first. It's really helpful for me. It leaves me in a positive sort of vibration and mindset all the time. And I've seen the transition in the women as well, in their mindsets and their growth. And it's wonderful.
Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast. We focus on providing you with timeless professional development secrets and essential business life skills in a mini bite-sized format. I'm unlocking the vault and sharing best practices that management consultants have been using for decades. We're unapologetically curious. Enjoy. So I'm pretty pumped today. I have Jennifer Hargreaves in the house today, who is the CEO of Tellent. And by the way, it's not what you think. It has got a definite twist, because this is amazing that they are bringing talent, bridging the talent gap for professional women. And I have to tell you, when you start playing around the website and different things, you just don't realize how many tools are out there and what a great support system is out there for us. So I am really excited. Thank you, Jennifer, for making the time to come and join me on the Can Innovate podcast.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
I love it. First of all, I'm so curious. So your background, I was actually kind of expecting there could be a Kiwi accent or a British accent. It looks like you've worked and traveled around the world.
It's a little messed up. It can be a little messed up, yes.
So you're like me,
yes, I'm a global citizen. I'm born and raised in Canada. Well, mostly raised in Canada. My dad is from New Zealand and my mom is from England. So I'm actually first generation Canadian, if you can believe it. But yeah, so I grew up mostly in Canada and also in New Zealand, and I launched my career in New Zealand, and then I got a posting with the New Zealand government in New York. I met and married a Scotsman there, and we moved over to England, and I lived and worked over there for a little while, and then I was ready to come home. So we came back to Toronto.
I love it. Well, we're glad you came back, because you created this amazing company, Tellent, and which is brilliant. Like, how did this whole idea come about?
It's one of those things how I think a lot of companies start, which is, you identify your own need. There's a need, that you have, or a problem that you have, and there's no solution in the market for it. So in 2016, when I came back from the UK, I was pregnant with my second child, and I was looking for work that really worked for me. And what that meant was a career that would allow me to pursue my professional ambitions and live the kind of lifestyle I wanted. So that's leadership and challenge with my career, and also being a present parent with my young family. And I really couldn't find what I was looking for in the marketplace. And I also couldn't understand why companies who wanted more women in leadership didn't have better flexible work policies. It actually seemed bonkers to me at the time, especially when a culture of flexible work and work-life balance is the number one thing that experienced professional women are looking for. And I couldn't seem to find it. So I set out there to try and find those opportunities and connect women to those opportunities.
It's brilliant, because, your Tellent, it's a job board, but it's also like a networking platform, if I understand it correctly.
100%. So there's two ways that we support professional women. One is absolutely free, and it's on our website, and it's a listing of jobs, and they talk about flexibility first. So I find that in a lot of job descriptions, you can read it, but it says nothing about what it's like to work there. So is it flexible? What does the flexibility look like? Is it a remote work? Is there ability to work flexible hours or a flexible location? And you often can't see it. So what we do on the job board is really lead with that flexibility. So is it part-time? Is it remote? Is it full-time but with flexible start-finish? And all of that is free. We also have a ton of curated resources and blogs on the site as well, like a workbook on how to negotiate flexible work with your employer. So we offer that to everybody. It's available to everybody. And then we also have a talent ecosystem, and we launched this in January. And the idea behind this is it's a virtual networking platform and flexible work mastermind group. I'm sure you're aware, Sapna, that most of the jobs are found through sort of on that hidden job market, the word of mouth or the recommendations and everything else. And one of the things that I learned quickly was that most of the jobs that I was looking for weren't even posted or advertised. So most of the jobs and the flexible work was coming through that word of mouth or the recommendations. And that's really what we wanted to do with the virtual networking platform, is bring together all these organizations that focus on, I want to call it a new system of work, bring them all together in one sort of supportive environment and let those connections and networks happen sort of naturally to find and fill those flexible work opportunities. You know the power of networking. You wrote a book on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how can you leverage those networks and those connections and really find the opportunities there?
It's crazy because I've always been a networker, because it's the management consultant in me. We're always constantly learning from other people, but you just don't realize how much of it's one of those, it's an actual skill you have to develop. Because I think it's like something like 80 or 90% of the jobs is actually found through networking. It's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing. I mean,
That's crazy.
That's all I've ever had is that, and that's how I found my consulting gigs and everything else, was all through referrals and people.
Right? So what I was trying to do when I started the business was find the posted or the listed jobs and share them out through the community. But what I was finding was that employers were coming to me and not wanting to post a job, especially if it was a part-time role or a contract role. But instead they were saying to me, Jenny, who do you know who can do this really well? Hey, Jenny, I need a freelancer, or I need someone who can hit the ground running. Who do you know? Who do you know? So I ended up being a bit of the limiting factor, if you will. My memory is not what it used to be. So, I'd go through my Rolodex and my network in my head, and I'd make those connections very successfully. But I became sort of that limiting factor. So that's why we launched the talent ecosystem, was so that I could remove myself from that center and we could create that natural network where that magic could happen. And the other thing I noticed as well was that with networking, like you said, it's a skill that you have to build, and it takes effort and time, because you don't just go and be like, hey, my name's Jenny, nice to meet you, can I have a job? It doesn't work like that, right? It's about building reciprocal relationships that benefit both parties. It's that relationship piece. And I found that there were so many associations or networking opportunities that were coming up, all trying to do very similar things in different ways, and all with sort of different viewpoints and benefits. But as a woman trying to find a job, how do I network across all those platforms and all those associations? So what I wanted to do was bring everybody together. So we've partnered with the Atelier Collective, Women of Influence, Mompreneurs Group, which are now rebranded, and I'm going to miss it. I think it's Her Revolution, the Ladies Community, and a couple of others, to bring those groups together to say, okay, let's network here when it comes to jobs.
It's amazing. And the other thing I love about the idea about this whole, networking piece is that you also have this thing called group idea labs, which
they're my favorite.
I'm so fascinated by it. And like you said, curiosity is my kryptonite and whatever it is. But I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, they're my absolute favorite thing to do on the community, because I've seen it in my own experience. I've seen it in the community environment, but I feel like I come up with some pretty good ideas. But when I come together with a group of women, they get up-leveled time and time again. A good idea becomes better. So I brought this onto the platform as well, which is, if you've got an idea, and we had an example of this a couple of weeks ago, a woman came in with a new business idea, and it's a wonderful idea, but I was able to handpick the people in the community who had a vested interest in what she was creating. So we not only got together for an hour and gave her insights on how she could build out her idea, she also built her network. And now she's got ×5. We had 5 other women on the call. She's got those networks within that industry who could be her potential consumers or customers or clients as well, which was very exciting. But you can apply this across. So the people on our platform, the women on our platform, they come to us at a point where they're in some sort of transition. So the transition might be exiting the traditional workforce and looking for something more flexible. So it's a job seeker. It might be starting out a freelancing business and looking for new clients. It could be returning to work after a career break, or it could be if you've been laid off or made redundant. So most of the women who come on and go into the flexible work mastermind group are at some point, they're in transition. So the Ideas Lab can either be about building a new business, looking at a new freelance opportunity, creating a new product or service, or it could just be, I'm pivoting my career, I'm thinking about this. Do you have any experiences or ideas, or is there anything that I'm not seeing that maybe you can see? I think there's such beauty and power in that sort of collective knowledge and bringing it all together.
I think it's really brilliant. Honestly, I can't wait. I can't wait to start playing around in that playground, because it's just going to have so much fun. I can't. Well,
Sapna, it was a good idea, and then somebody made it a better idea, basically, which is, again, right? It's the power of the collective. And right now it is a paid membership. We have 88 women in there. But if you think about what they bring to the table and the power of the collective networks, the collective experiences, because everybody's different, everybody's unique, everybody has a different viewpoint. And I think it's just, like you said, it's magic.
There's nothing, it's my favorite thing. I was even telling somebody, I was actually doing some professional development with a couple of people, and they're like, oh, they're going to steal my idea. I said, I've been doing a podcast for so long, and every entrepreneur will tell you that no one steals anyone's idea. They can just help you make it better. And the more and more you talk about it, the more and more you get different insights. And just talk about it and see and get the temperature check and see if there's legs on it. And it's amazing. Most people have the positive intent just to want to help. That's what most people are.
Absolutely. And it's that mindset as well of abundance versus lack as well. And, Sabna, you could go out tomorrow and try and create something that's similar to what I'm creating, but it will never be the same as what I'm creating. It'll be something different, and people will be attracted to yours for different reasons than they're attracted to mine. And all we're doing is now we're both helping women everywhere. So actually, that's amazing, and that's fantastic. And I try to take that, bring that into the community as well, is this mindset and values around abundance and collaboration and generosity. So it's give first, support first. It's really helpful for me. It leaves me in a positive sort of vibration and mindset all the time. And I've seen the transition in the women as well, and their mindsets and their growth. And it's wonderful.
I'm so stoked about it. And it's exactly the perfect thing. And right now is the perfect time because, I was reading on the website, we talk about flexibility, and now, of course, COVID has totally changed the playing field. Like, there's no tomorrow. It's kind of really fascinating to see how it's going to look like post-COVID, or when people do return back to work. Like, what is going to be the new kind of definitions of flexibility? What is it going to look like?
I mean, I would like to say I could predict the future. I'm hopeful for the future. So there's been some silver linings with COVID. One, I would say, is that institutional mindsets around flexibility have been catapulted into the future. So I would say flexibility was the future of work anyway, in terms of where and how you can access the best talent, because it's not necessarily in your postcode. And as the world becomes more digital and it becomes more global, you're going to need that key talent and those critical skills that you might not be able to get in a rural area to grow your business. So flexibility and the importance of that was always important. But I still ran into a lot of institutional mindsets that were not quite there yet. And I would say what COVID did was sort of close that gap, that time gap, and sped everything right up. So organizations were forced to implement emergency work from home policies, and I think a lot of them were really positive and felt that it was a real benefit to the way that they operated and ran their business. I also think that they found, we actually did a survey, that's why I feel like I can say, I think they think, but we did a survey on hiring and workforce trends during COVID and post-COVID. And one of the things that came up was that the future will be flexible. They had to trial this quickly, and they came up with solutions that worked. And then they said, right, let's do it. This is possible. We can do it. And not only can we do it, we can save money in the process. So it became a bit of a win-win. So I'm very hopeful that organizations will take what they've learned and they'll take the lessons they've been offered from these last 3 months, and they'll start implementing more flexible work policies. But not just flexible work policies. The other thing that I really saw come out of COVID was a shift in the employee experience or employee engagement. So all of a sudden it became more humanized. You know, you can't really hide. I call it secret parenting, which is you go to work and you pretend like you don't have kids at home. And then you come home and you pretend like you don't have work. There was this huge division between work and life. And that division again has closed because, you know, you're on a Zoom call and my son came down with no pants on the other day. Like, it's hard to hide the fact that, you know, you have a life and you have responsibilities, both for men and women. I think that's the key point as well, is this. It's never just been a woman's problem. Flexibility is an everybody thing. Everybody needs access to flexible work for whatever reasons, whether it's children, whether it's caring responsibilities, whether it's for exercise time, for productivity, for whatever else. It shouldn't be allocated just to women. It's not just a women's problem. So I feel very hopeful that we've moved forward and we've shortened that gap to having more inclusive, flexible work policies for better financial results, for increased productivity, and for better access to talent, and for increased equity.
No, I think it's going to be really great. And it's about time, because we were going to go that direction anyways. And it's kind of really, but it is. It's also a shift in, you know, when you're saying about the employee experience, there's also, you know, I think the first few months we go like, oh, this is a great novelty. But now I think they get to play around, just like all of us. We started baking, right? Like we all had these novelties. But now, when I'm talking to a lot of different types of people, they're like, you know, this is my new normal and I still need to do other things. And they're taking their professional development a lot more seriously because they're actually able to focus a lot more. Like they've actually been able, before it was a wish list. I wish I could work from home. I wish I could do this. I could have time to cook and do all those things. And now they've got that. And now they're thinking, okay, wait a minute. Now I got to get serious. What do I want my career to look like? And they're starting to think about things a lot more differently, right? So I feel like we've gone from the wish
absolutely
and into the aspirational.
I feel like a lot of people have been reconnecting with their personal why. Mm-hmm. Why am I doing this? What is my purpose? What do I want out of life? Because we've been given time and space to think about it. And even I feel like my time and space shut down very quickly with a lack of childcare, but it became a different experience. So we stopped running around to soccer games, to swimming lessons. We stopped rushing dinner. My kids are learning to cook with me. So it's, again, a different experience. We've been given an opportunity to say, I forgot how important this was to me, to having this time. Will I go back to what it was before? I don't think so. So things have shifted in the home life and in the work life. And I think we've been given a gift for all, you know, the bad experiences coming out of this and tragedies as well. We've been given some real gifts and silver linings.
Yeah, I really feel like this has been a gift as well, because I actually still think that COVID might actually kill narcissism kind of thing, because I think we've become a lot more grateful. And things like people would tell me that they hated their job and now they're grateful for having a job. They used to complain about the traffic and now they miss the traffic because that was the time they got to listen to their music, their podcasts, their audiobooks. It was their time, that me time. People were complaining about the elevators, and now people are saying that they're afraid to go in the elevators, and how they wouldn't talk to their mom only once a week, and now they talk to them every day. Like, it's just amazing of the shift in perception that's actually happened. And my dad was making me laugh the other day. He said, you know what? Everyone always said, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. So he goes, you know what the world said? Fine. Here, have all the time back. And he goes, and it's still interesting, the things that you have time for, you're still too busy for it because it was never that important to you. And now you're seeing this kind of this eye-opening, going back to the roots, going back to the basics. What do I want to do? And I think that's your point. Like, we're reconnecting with our why because we've lost sight of it. We've just got too busy.
Too busy, and then too many of our habits. Right? We got used to a routine and a habit and a way of living that seemed normal. That was our normal. And that was completely disrupted, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it was disrupted not just for a week, because I think if this had happened for a month, we would have just gone back to normal. There would have been a normal to go back to. But because it's been going on for 3 months, it's a new normal. And we've had opportunity and chance to create new habits and a new way of living that's going to be harder to just go back to how life was before. And I think that's the exciting part.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. So that was something else I found fascinating was, I was checking out your website and stuff. And by the way, seriously, thank you so much for all the amazing tools on your website. Like, there's some really fascinating pieces in there. And one of the things that I got me thinking about is like, right now, there's a lot of people that are looking for jobs and so on. And it's kind of like one of those challenges, like do you have any tips about how to kind of find work during this pandemic?
Networking, number one.
Yeah, of course.
But I would say it comes down to, we sort of went from a skill shortage in the marketplace to a very crowded marketplace in the course of, like in the span of 2 months. So now we really have to think about how can you stand out when there's a lot of other really great talent out there. And I would say the top 2 ways to do it, you can apply for jobs. That's great. Keep doing that. Never stop, because it's required to do so. But you have to stand out throughout your personal brand. You have to really strengthen your personal brand. It's really important now more than ever to have a strong LinkedIn profile, and position yourself as a thought leader in whatever it is you're doing. Whether you are a virtual assistant, you're the best virtual assistant with great time management tricks and everything else that your customer or client or future employer wants to need, but be the best on your website and make sure that's communicated correctly so you stand out, because employers do look to your LinkedIn profile for that information. They also look across your other digital channels as well. So just make sure everything's tidy. And we've got some resources on the website and some tools that can show you how to do it really quickly. We have some amazing coaches also on the site that can help you get your digital house in order. And then I would say network. So again, you want to be in a smaller pool of a lot of applicants. You want to have a direct recommendation, an introduction, or even better, you want to get to the job before it even exists, which is the networking piece of it and building relationships and understanding what it is that your future employer, future client wants and needs so that you can fill that gap for them and propose a solution. Everybody's busy and stressed and anxious, and there's so much going on. It is such a relief to have somebody propose a solution to you. I don't know if you found this, but as an entrepreneur, when people pitch me to solve my problems, I hire them because I'm like, yes, this was a problem. It was a huge problem that I was facing, and you can do it for me. You've got the expertise. Done. And I didn't even know I needed that help. Mm-hmm. So that's what comes from networking as well, and building those relationships. And it all starts, like you said, Sapna, with being curious, right? Understand what it is that they need, understand what their pain points are, and figure out how you can propose a solution to solve that problem.
And I love what you said about, when someone comes and they pitch you something and they've already helped you identify something you didn't even know you had a problem with. People really need to learn this, because this is what I talk about in my own book as well, is that this is what management consultants have been doing for decades. Like, they don't come in with a cold, hard pitch about why they're so great. They show value and demonstrating the power of it, right? It's like, here's the proof in the pudding. Like, here's what I've already done for you without even asking me. This is the type of value I could provide, right? And we really underestimate taking that, because people still think sending out 1,000 resumes, you're going to have a better probability as opposed to sending one. And, and it's crazy to me.
I agree. And I would also say on the job search piece or client search, if you're a freelancer looking to boost up your portfolio career, is to be targeted in your approach. So it's the spatter gun, like you just said, right? It's less effective than the targeted approach. So if you know the companies you want to work for, you can research out who the hiring managers are, the business managers are. You can find the people you need to talk to by getting really creative, and you can network your way in by adding value. And being of service. And you can start building those relationships and get really targeted in your approach. And you're going to have more luck doing that than you are sending out 1,000 generic resumes.
Absolutely. Oh, you and I could talk about this for days.
I feel like when COVID restrictions have gone down, I would love to catch up and have many conversations.
Oh, me too. We kind of come from the same school of thinking, kind of thing. So this is really brilliant by all means. And so your website is honestly, for my listeners out there, I don't recommend a lot of things out there, but I have to tell you, this website is really, really rich. Like, I'm not just talking about resources, but there are jobs out there. The jobs out there are from all different types of levels and a breadth of different areas across, any different spectrum. And so definitely take a look at that. But that networking and that idea labs thing, I can't wait to play into that soon because I'm definitely going to join that. Yes, that's totally my wheelhouse itself. But I was actually surprised that a lot of companies are really hiring right now.
I've actually noticed a real shift in the last 2 weeks. It was dry there for a little while when looking for jobs and opportunities and reaching out to businesses to see what they were doing in terms of hiring. And our survey did show that there was a freeze and hiring decrease in the market. I wasn't sure when it would come back, but it's really bounced, and it's bounced across company sizes. So I'm seeing a lot of entrepreneurs with those word of mouth and hidden job opportunities. I've seen a huge increase in that. I've seen it with small businesses, mid-sized companies, and large organizations as well. I wouldn't say we're back to pre-COVID levels, but hiring has started again, which is great.
It really is, because like I said, I was really surprised to see the volume that you had, and it's just really great to see that started. And I think people have also, we're not doing like for like anymore. Like, they had this role, but now with all this new insights they've had in the past little while, they have a different type of strategy and looking at things a lot differently. So they've actually started to optimize these roles. So it may sound like a brand manager before, but that when you read the job postings now, the way they describe things, it's really been, elevated to a different type of, way of thinking. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very hopeful for the future of work and where we're going with that, and that we just take the opportunity to leverage the talent that we have as well. Because, I think with a shift in the way that we're working with flexibility as well, we can reevaluate work and how we work. So not just in terms of productivity being measured as how many hours you're in an office, but what your results are, what your output is. And you do it at 5 o'clock in the morning and then at 9 o'clock at night, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're knocking it out of the park. So this is what I'm hopeful for as well, is this change in how you evaluate work. Yeah.
Less time-bound, more outcome-based. It's about time, and we need to have that shift a long time ago, by all means. So, Jennifer, I love your website by all means, and I think it's so cool that you've got this free section of it, but honestly, that whole piece about being able to network and that ideas lab is so valuable, and I really would love our audience listeners to tap into that. So, definitely, I can't wait to hear more information about it. Is there something that we could leverage about that?
Absolutely. If you visit the website, I will give Sapna a very special code for all of you to access a 15% discount on our annual membership into the Tellent ecosystem. As I said before, this is such a great community founded on values of gratitude, of generosity, and collaboration, and it is a great place to support you in your journey to finding work that works for you.
I love that. Thank you for that. And listeners, we will have that all in the show notes. So you can just click it away. And you know what? You'll find me in there. I'll tell you, I'll be one of the first ones in there as well. So we'll have a lot of fun.
We will have a lot of fun. I'm very excited.
Jennifer, this is really brilliant. Thank you so much for, setting up this amazing company. I always love it that it came from a place of when, it was a pain point for you and you turned it into something really beautiful. So thank you so much for doing that for all of us. And honestly, I cannot describe, this is the perfect time, especially with the COVID. It kind of gave us an adult time out. It gave us a chance to repurpose our why. So get curious, start exploring, start sharing and networking. And because we can really change the way your next few years look like, and what a great time to really optimize your own careers. So thank you, Jennifer, for all this.
It was my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.